Lothchats, the home of Shatterpoint.
Hey, this is Stephen Porter with Lothchats, and I'm here with David Gao.
Hello, hello.
He was the man responsible for running the UKGE Shatterpoint tournament, the first GT in the UK. And we were just going to have a talk about how it went, experience running events, and what the future of events in the UK could look like.
Yeah, so I've run Imperial Assault for quite a few years, since back during Fantasy Flight Games days. I've done it sort of outside of event circuits. I've done it at UK Games Expo. We did a little bit at Adepticon one year. But most of my experience, I think, has come from doing events after the company is sort of a sunset official organized play, right? So I've done a lot of events, and a lot of them have been fairly large, but mostly without having to deal with the actual companies running the games and without people setting up rules and guidelines for what we have to do and what we can't do, right?
So, probably some upsides and downsides to that. Not having the official support of the company is irritating in some ways. When was it that they stopped officially supporting Imperial Assault?
So we were supposed to have Worlds in 2020, and then, the pandemic happened.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it was the same for Destiny, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we ended up doing like a home worlds, and then we obviously at that point already knew that the game was not going to get any more expansions. So the continuity project IACP had done extra waves of releases, and the community sort of took over from there. I guess this is quite similar to what X-Wing and Armada are thinking about doing.
Yeah, I imagine so. I've definitely seen some things come up with people talking about what they'll do in future. I'm glad to see that, they didn't die immediately, but Imperial Assault has now lost most of its players.
Yeah, there's quite a few
There's
people
some
playing,
holdouts, yeah.
yeah, on online
Yeah.
mostly. The UK community actually doesn't really engage too much with continuity project. I think we have a decent sized tournament every year. It's actually the reason I went to Games Expo, but maybe we can come back to that later.
Yeah, originally you were just going to go to Games Expo to run Imperial Assault and got lassoed into helping us with Shatterpoint as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So thank you for that.
We usually get about 10 to 16 players, but we like to run the last, Fantasy Flight version of the game.
Yeah.
It gets a bit more accessible.
Yeah, it's not too bad then. And how many did you have this year?
This year we had 12.
Oh, okay, so that's half what we had for Shatterpoint.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good.
How did you find UKGE? Obviously, you've done it before, but 2 events, was that a bit many
Uh,
spinning plates?
yeah, I mean, okay, if I'm honest, running 2 events is a bit much. I think it is a kind of 3-day convention, right? So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I guess you can go Thursday evening, but usually you may or may not want to take Friday off work. 2 events really eats up quite a lot of that time. Expo is always fun because you can test new games. We were playing the new Mandalorian board game and checking out new releases, trying to get Star Wars Unlimited promos and all of that. But 2 events makes it so that I could only really do that, in between rounds, or like during lunch or something. It's a bit.
Yeah. Were you able to make sure they didn't overlap?
Uh okay, I was not.
Oh, you were doing the old sitcom
Yeah,
taking two girls to the dance trope.
exactly. So originally, I guess what happened was you guys were looking for someone to TO Shatterpoint who was going to Games Expo, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, we weren't all able to make it down this year.
Yeah, and so because I was going to Games Expo and running Imperial Assault, I also had a couple of requests from that community who really wanted to play in both events. So I
Hmm.
thought, okay, it'd be great, I can maybe TO 2 events this year, and I'll try to make them not overlap, at least in Swiss.
Yeah.
And I basically wasn't able to accomplish my one goal.
Yeah. You've obviously got a lot from the centre stopping you from just doing the events when you'd like. There's too many other things going on.
Yeah. I mean, I think that issue is just related to how last minute everything was.
Yeah, it was a really awkward year, but it's the first GT in the UK. Yippee!
Yay. Yeah, the whole GT title also confused me. I mean, you know they've been running London GT for years and years and years, right?
Yeah, well, this is AMG's version of a GT, it seems.
Yeah, exactly. I also didn't know what a GT was until they announced various things very close to the event. So we suddenly had to pivot.
There was some issues with communication for sure, but I think you'll always face struggles trying to run events, especially under those circumstances.
I mean, I thought overall we managed to pull it together. That's another interesting thing that we can chat about. I think originally we didn't know what a GT was. We didn't know, this was going to be a super serious event or anything. And we were actually considering making Games Expo not a premiere event. We were thinking about just doing a showdown event.
How do you feel about the fact it was a premiere event?
So I think it was great, but I think we had a very certain type of player that joined to play UK Games Expo.
The competitive crowd came out.
Yeah, but not
Yeah.
not in the same way that you might think. I'm calling them the competitive crowd. So I mean very specifically people that just really wanted to play Shatterpoint competitively versus people that want to win prizes or things like that.
There's not been the events in the UK, and I think that's why so many people were excited to just get out and play.
Yeah, I mean I've run events with official prize support for other systems before, and you do get you.
Oh, we should talk about the prize support because it was lovely.
Oh yeah, it was very nice.
Yeah, it was really nice stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was basically quite similar to what Adepticon got,
Yeah.
except we ended up not having to do this ticket system, and everyone was able to get basically everything plus extras the next day.
We got enough stuff shipped in. Yeah,
Yeah, it was quite
that
good.
was good.
But what I heard afterwards were quite a few people complaining that the event had been capped too low.
The 24 wasn't enough people. Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of people would have registered after they heard about the prizes, but the prizes were only
The
announced.
prizes were only announced day of or day before even. It was so soon.
Yeah, I think the images came out the morning of, and I was sent them on that same day and told not to release this until a certain time. So I had
Yeah.
so little information the whole time. But I think that meant that we had people who really only cared about playing the game.
Yeah.
Interestingly, some of the tables where I walked by, they wouldn't even look at the prizes or touch the promos or anything until after the match, which I thought was nice. They're just like,
Yeah.
don't tempt me with these shiny things until I'm done achieving victory.
Keep your eye on one goal.
That was nice to see.
Yeah, and the prizes were nice. I think they fall in line with what FFG used to give. Dice looked lovely. I haven't actually seen the acrylic scoreboard, but I did see the
Range rulers.
yeah, they looked lovely.
Yeah, all of it was nice.
I've always thought it was strange that they don't produce more for sale kind of goodies.
I guess it's maybe partially expense related and partially just this sort of scarcity promo type thing.
The scarcity to get people to come to events is one thing, but I have heard events tend to be lost leaders to sell product and sort of promote the game.
Definitely. So we were told for UK Games Expo specifically that event we should consider a loss leader. You might notice or remember that I only charged something like £16 for the tickets,
Yeah, very reasonable.
which is very different from a lot of the other GTs.
Yeah, we're seeing them half.
Yeah, something like
£50.
50.
Yeah.
But this I think was a special case where we were instructed they didn't care about making profits off the tickets. So
Yeah, that definitely helps out.
I do have to, I guess, admit that we didn't even submit the event or specify a lot of these things. I'm pretty sure AMG did that for us, which was also a little odd. So I didn't have control
Oh, yeah.
over the information that you could get from the UK Games Expo website. And I think I didn't have kind of confirmation that we were allowed to use Longshanks until a week before the event itself.
I think that should have been okay, as Adepticon used Longshanks as well. So that's definitely interesting, unique things about the UKGE event. Was there anything else you'd say was different about it compared to other events you've ran?
I mean, so as I said, it's the first one I've run in a really long time where we were part of this like centralized, Star Wars games events. So we had the TO tables, and it was X-Wing, Armada, Shatterpoint, MCP, all together, and that was really nice.
All the AMG properties, yeah.
Yeah, that was really nice to have. I mean, I'm sort of used to being left to fend for ourselves.
Shoved into the corner.
Exactly. I mean, a shout out to Star Trek Attack Wing, who were our table neighbors for a few years.
Yes. Yeah, I think I've heard of that. Is it the X-Wing-like Star Trek game? It's
Yeah,
somewhere
exactly.
between X-Wing and Armada, right?
Right.
In scale.
They've got a pretty good number of players, and they're at Expo every year.
Yeah, that is nice.
That maybe the main annoyance I had was that we didn't manage to get Swiss all to be on day one.
Yep, Swiss ended up bleeding into day 2. You got 4 rounds on day 1 or 5?
3.
3. Oh,
Yeah, so it wasn't because it was not possible to play more rounds on day one. It was just a decision that was made by someone somewhere,
right.
or some series of
Yes.
decisions that.
Yeah, and it's interesting to do a Swiss and top cut when you've only got 4 players reaching top cut.
Yeah, I know for London GT, the plan is that even though we're not able to put Swiss all on one day, we're basically going to make sure everyone who doesn't make cut is still playing the game, right? So everyone gets
Yeah,
2 full days of games.
yeah, a
Yeah.
side event, kind of. And were there side events at UK Games Expo?
Yeah. So I ran
Yeah.
side events for everyone who didn't make cut
Did
as
you
well.
guys get to do gonk racing?
No.
No elusive gonk racing. I've heard it's been difficult to get a hold of.
Yeah, I heard that people were not, or were told not to distribute the rules and everything for that.
Yeah, I think that's a shame.
Maybe we'll see it later.
I mean, obviously when we get the in-game gonk squad released.
Of course.
Gonk primary. First 5-cost primary, right?
Just be a box that's Gonks versus Lothcats. I would buy that immediately. There is a difference though between running an event at an expo and running a separate event.
Yeah, when we run LGT, it's just going to be a hall of events. There'll be no stores or anything. Or
Yeah. So, if you get somebody to go to a big convention and then you don't let them have any time to visit the convention, that's a little bit weird.
yeah, it's
On the
definitely.
other hand, I think for Expo usually a lot of people don't go for the whole time, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a smaller event anyway, right?
Yeah, I did have a lot of people complain a bit that they had to come back for day two. I know one of our local London guys had to.
Yeah, a lot of people planned to just be there for one day and couldn't come back to complete their games. It was always advertised as a 2-day event, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is that the event kind of posting was not written by me, the one on UK
Yes, it was
Games
by
Expo.
AMG, right?
Right. And it also went up quite early. So when that went up, I still knew nothing about anything. And there was no game schedule or anything. They had just picked a start and an end time of the day. And so we had a hard start and stop limit based on that. And that's why we couldn't get more games in, even though, 4 games of Shatterpoint on day one is not crazy to fit.
No, that seems reasonable. And is that why you guys only played, 6 rounds total?
The number of rounds was actually dictated by the Premiere document. So it's based on the number of players you have, how many Swiss rounds you have, and what the size of your top cut is.
And so for 24 players, it's 4 rounds and a top cut of 4 people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I know we've run other tournaments where we decide, let's just do a top 8 cut or.
Yeah, I think that's a strange decision because obviously if you had one more round, you'd have one 5-0 and then a good number of 4-1s. I think that would make up your top cut. I think you'd end up with 3 4-1s and a 5-0 that would make up your whole top cut, rather than a lot of people who did just as well as others not having the strength of schedule to go through to top cut.
So I think GT was meant to be 36 players, actually.
Yeah, they have a number. They do have a number. I can't think of it right now.
Well, it was more players than our limit was set at for Games
Yeah,
Expo.
more than 24. Yeah.
But it was set at 24.
And that was their minimum expectation, right? They didn't give a max, they gave a minimum that was much higher than our.
Right. When people look at the GT rules, there were some folks on Slack who were confused whether or not it was a GT because it wasn't a GT size. But
Yeah, of course, it doesn't fit with their GT, but they made an exception.
Yeah. It was just very early, and all the info was very late,
I know people spoke about the terrain causing some problems.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say about the terrain on the game?
So basically, we were asked to put on the event with no guidance, and the first solution was that we were gonna get this kind of modular, I think it was TT Combat maybe, or MDF terrain or something, and we had started building all of these, huge elaborate tables, and then at some point we were given a document that said please use official terrain only. And so we had to at the last minute sort of abandon all that.
And follow the official terrain layout guides from.
No, so okay, those were not official terrain layout guides from AMG. Those were because I wasn't going to be there on Friday, so someone else had to set up the tables, right?
So that was the guide for them.
Yeah, so that was the guide.
And that's why we got no scatter, because they didn't think about it right.
Yes. So that was the guide for the guys who showed up early and helped set up all the tables. So this is also why I had another crate of terrain, right, that people could add to the tables if they felt there wasn't enough. But none of it was scattered terrain. I showed up and there wasn't scattered terrain, which I think probably isn't that huge a deal.
It's definitely not the end of the world, but it does make the boards look a lot more sparse.
Exactly. I think there was definitely enough terrain to be had, but on the day I also asked them if I could just beef up all the tables with the extra terrain bits, and the decision was let's not do that because some people may have looked at the suggested terrain guidance that was meant to help the people setting up the tables and expected it to be exactly that, and they would complain. So it ended up being a whole chicken and egg problem.
It did. I do remember.
I think it's alright. Yeah, I don't know if we misunderstood that requirement.
Well, since they've put out a statement that it doesn't have to be official anymore, right?
Exactly. As long as it's designed and made for the system.
Yes.
So
which I think is a really good move.
Yeah.
They've not released enough terrain for this game. It is such a terrain-dependent game, and we're getting our first piece of terrain that I will say is personally disappointing. I don't think the garage is interesting.
Well, it would have been nice to have some garages for Games
Expo. I'm sure it would have.
When you have nothing, anything is great.
Well, that's it. I'm glad they've taken the drought away by allowing third-party suppliers.
So I think for the other GTs, I've given feedback on, making the tables more dense to start with and including a lot of scatter terrain. So I'm hoping, people that go to the next ones will get that.
We'll thank the players of the first UKGE for their sacrifice.
I mean, I do think it was quite heroic how quickly all that terrain got painted up and appeared.
Yeah. How close to the event was it sitting unpainted and
So I didn't see any of it.
no, it wasn't. That wasn't on us.
So that was actually a nightmare of mine because at some point they told me, "Oh yeah, we're gonna just get like 24 core set boxes and 24 high ground packs."
Enjoy.
And I'm like, "Oh no, I did not sign up to help you assemble and paint 24 tables of terrain." I think I wasn't even in the country. I was probably traveling in Germany or something for work. It was very stressful. But then I showed up and okay, no scatter, but wow, yeah, everything was there and painted and it looks pretty good.
Yeah, at least we have that. Was there anything you think UKG could have done better?
Yeah, so I think something that was quite important, in my opinion, was this suggestion actually from Elisa, one of our players, that at the start of every game, the two players should just have a quick chat about what all the terrain is and what counts as what.
Yes, I find that's such a useful thing. It saves so many arguments later down the line.
If you consider that we only could use officially released terrain pieces at Games Expo, there are a surprisingly large number of questions about terrain interactions.
Yes, and there are rules for the terrain in Shatterpoint and line of sight.
Yeah. But we only had like 4 unique objects.
Yep.
And it still needed clarification from time to time.
I mean, there are things like the rules in Shatterpoint where you can't be standing on 2 different pieces of terrain, which we all do when we play. If you stand on those connections between 2 bits of terrain, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, and the large high ground thing with the 2 ladders and whether you can climb the second ladder after getting off the first ladder, or if you glue 2 ladders together, do you have to go all the way to the top, or can you stop climbing at the first level? Well, apparently there are many of these questions.
Yeah, there really are. The game could do with a little bit of clearing up on those aspects, but I think that's been an issue since before day 1.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but there was a day 1 rules update to change cover because line of sight was so confusing and cover was so confusing.
And also how hunker and cover worked, right?
Yes, yeah, that was the big change, was making it so you only had cover when you had a hunker token, because otherwise they just found everyone had cover all the time.
I mean, it shouldn't even be a tournament thing. I think anytime you play Shatterpoint, maybe just take a look with your opponent and sort yourself out, right?
Yeah, that's what I do. I think it makes your games run smoother, leads to a lot less confusion as well. Because it's not even the argument, it's when you do something and your opponent has a quizzical look on their face. As they think, why has he climbed that? And you've got a ladder hidden somewhere they couldn't see. Even stuff like that just needs to be gone over at the start of the game. This stuff's all this size, this stuff's this size. Here are all the ladders that are blocked from your view.
Like I said, it feels a little bit like a gotcha moment or something.
Yeah, that's never how you want to be playing games. It just ends up unfun. Again, the gotcha moments are the things that are what need looking at. Django's shooting you and taking your turn away.
Django's gotcha moment you can see like 6 miles away, but it's still so painful.
You can now, but I don't know if you remember the first time it happened to you.
I probably heard about it before it happened in a game.
Yeah, no, I hadn't, and it was shocking.
Yeah, well, maybe that will be one of the changes. I don't know. Speculation.
Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, we can only speculate, and I'd love to speculate. So we can talk about the actual people who played the event, it was won by James Green, who's a London, not quite local. He lives out in Windsor.
I had played him once before at one of our local events too.
Yeah, I think I've played him 4 or 5 times now. He's a really good player. A lot of love for James. He was running Hunter and Obi-Wan was the list he played most, with a backup of Jedi Hunter Vader with Luminara, which is obviously a really strong list. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm mistaken. He was running Emperor's Servant Vader, which is interesting, but he only played that in one game. He mostly played Hunter and General Kenobi.
Yeah, because Hunter was super popular at the event.
He was. Luckily, most people get their Hunters in just in time. I'm sure that there was a lot of grey Bad Batch around the tables.
I think there was only 1 or 2 players that did not have a 100% painted list.
Wow. And one of them would have been me, because I'm so bad at getting my painting done.
Yeah, because we had to go around and collect the entries for the painting.
Oh, for the best painted. Yeah.
So it's not actually best painted. The guidelines was that it should be a raffle
Okay.
of fully painted
Okay.
models. Yeah, I guess it's a bit more accessible somehow.
Less of a subjective decision as well, when the judges
Yeah.
will always know players, and
So I actually that means that almost all the Bad Batches were painted already.
Yeah.
Which is
I
impressive.
suppose they're simple? I don't know. I think they look a bit complex, but maybe they're easier than I think.
Very nice models.
The game does have some really lovely models.
What else did we have in the top 4 then?
The other top 4 players were bringing... Someone brought Asajj Ventress to the top 4. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Asajj, although...
I've played against your Asajj once or twice. I really like her, actually. I think she's great.
I think she's good, she's just not quite good enough.
I think she feels very, very good in terms of what she does. Maybe she costs too much force.
That's often the issue. She costs a bit too much force. She gets undercut by Maul at every turn. It's the issue. Maul is, unfortunately just a bit better.
I think there was also a Maul.
The same person was playing Maul and Towson, which is the list they actually used in their final game against James. We also saw another 2 Hunters in the top cut. So 3 people were playing Hunter in the top cut. 2 people were playing Maul. The person in third was playing Lumi, Hunter, Maul, and New Luke. New Luke? There's only one Luke.
So far.
So far?
Yet.
Well, for another couple of weeks, yes. How many Lukes do you think we'll get over the life of Shatterpoint? 5, 6?
There are already that many Skywalkers almost.
We've only got 1 Anakin so far, shockingly. No, try spinning. That's a good trick. Yet.
The number 4 player also played Hunter.
Yeah, and while he went 0-2 in top cut, he was the person who did best in Swiss.
Yeah, he went for 4-0 in Swiss.
Yeah, he went 4-0 in Swiss, but went 0-2 in top cut, which is a shame. But yeah, he was playing Cad Bane and Jedi Hunter. So he was playing Hunter with Obi-Wan as one list, which I think we're all finding is really good. That was actually what I told James he should take to UKGE.
Oh yeah.
Just a couple of days before UKGE, we had our own tournament. But he brought Hunter with Luminara.
Maybe he was still considering running his Luminara with Hunter at some point.
But I think Obi-Wan is really good, even at 1 point down, which he was. So he was taking the ARFs instead of Republic Commandos or 212, which I think is the right call. And he was taking Rex instead of Crosshair, which again I do agree with, because Rex is such a good character. Even though Crosshair is really good and people are finding homes for him all over the place, I don't think in a clone list he quite stands up to Rex.
Yeah, I always have a tough time with figures that have a little less mobility.
Yeah.
I think because we activate so few times during a game, right?
And you'd like to be able to go where you want on your turns.
Exactly, and if you can't one time, it's kind of catastrophic.
It's devastating. Sometimes that's the game lost for you. That's why some characters are bad and some are good. Essentially, mobility you remember when the game came out and we all thought Maul was bad for a couple of weeks?
What? I never thought Maul was bad.
I did. Oh, when the game came out and I tried him on Dark Rage, and he was just killing himself by spending no force.
He was very popular at the events as well, so
He was. Maul is always really popular.
I think we had 11 hunters and 9 Maul and 9 Kenobi.
10 Vaders?
More Vaders than that if you count both, right?
Oh, yeah. I suppose 12 people were playing both kinds of Vader combined, but 10 were playing Jedi Hunter.
Yeah, it seems overwhelmingly the Jedi Hunter one.
He's so much easier to use.
At the time, we didn't have as much Empire available as well, right?
That's it, and Jedi Hunter fits anywhere. Not a single person played Mace Windu or Grand Inquisitor. One person brought Low Grey. 2 people brought Hondo.
Yeah, I was surprised there were so few Hondos, actually.
I think Hondo is someone people are really struggling to play with. While I like him, I think he has some list building issues. He certainly did at that time. I think now actually he plays very well with Mando and with Gideon, but they're just coming out. He plays probably very well with Kanan, but he's just coming out. So a lot of these new scoundrels, they're just coming out. Han, Kanan, Mando, Gideon.
That's true.
Yeah, that's 4 new really good scoundrel characters.
You know who's a scoundrel is Maul.
Yep, Maul is a scoundrel, but you know what? He doesn't quite play well with Hondo. It just doesn't gel. Maybe it's the you're saving too much force.
Yeah, maybe. There were also only 2 Lukes.
There were, yeah, but the people who took him played him quite a bit, and obviously one of them was, as we said,
Did very well, yeah.
yeah, all the way up in top cut. Where was the other Luke? I'm just having a look. I bet Lewis brought the other Luke. Yes, he did. And he could have made top cut if he'd had better strength of schedule.
Yeah, he was pretty close.
I think that's, if you asked me, my biggest issue with this event.
The number of rounds.
Yeah, I think you had 1 round too few. I think with 1 more round, you wouldn't have anyone who was able to have won if they'd played different players because of strength of schedule, which is always feels like a horrible way to lose.
Yeah, I guess you kind of get used to it. There's this eternal argument about if you win a tournament and you go up a tier, whether you take the bye that you get. So like if you win at a regional and you go to nationals, often you get the seed, one bye. So free
But
win
then you get
round
the
one.
worst strength of schedule.
Exactly.
So would you rather just play someone?
So a lot of people will tell you to not take it. On the other hand, the argument is if you're gonna try to play, 5-6 games in one day, maybe you'll just play better if you do one.
Yeah, you have less mental load. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I think I would take it.
I too would take it.
Also, I'm not here to play games. I'm just here to claim the win. What?
You can probably still play a game if they would let the TOs play.
Now, this didn't affect us at UKGE, but I did want to ask you how you feel about the fact that now we've got all these product delays, some people are getting their hands on, I would call them their toys before everyone else can.
Yeah, so I guess personally it's really annoying, because you have heard me moan quite a lot, I think, about the fact that I'm an original trilogy fan. So I've been waiting for certain things for a really, really long time.
Oh yeah, it's been really difficult. The past few months, some people have had the Bad Batch or the Mandalorian, and others just haven't.
Yeah, and I was actually a bit worried for Games Expo as well, because at the time we had gotten partial fulfillment, I think, of Bad Batch. So a couple of people had them.
Yeah, that was the case. Some people had it and some didn't.
And I wasn't sure whether that would be a problem or not. I think if it had been later, we would have perhaps had a much bigger problem. Once Mandalorian
Yeah.
and Moff Gideon.
Yeah, definitely. Right now, the last month's been difficult.
I don't know what your opinion on, whether or not there should be any restriction.
I think the problem is you have to go by, especially at an event like a GT, You have to go by AMG's official release date. I think if some people are able to get them in for whatever ludicrous import they're paying from Australia or the US. The problem with running official events, you can't allow proxies or
Exactly.
3D prints, you know.
Yeah, it just is what it is, you know.
Yeah.
Luckily, we didn't have that issue. I still have a care package from the U.S. that's stuck in customs, so
Yep.
we'll see
That's
if
about right. I had an order put in months ago, supposed to come whenever Mandalorian and Gideon released, but got delayed so many times I just cancelled it in the end and put in a new one.
I can't complain too much. I mean, I did finally get a couple of the new things, so I'm happily.
Yeah, things are finally starting to show up. Well, was there anything you wanted to plug, David?
No, I don't really have anything I want to advertise. I mean, other than the fact that Lothchats are indeed the best thing in Star Wars.
Of course, as the Lothchats podcast, we can be on board with that. Well, this has been an interview with David Gao. Thank you for your time, and I hope everyone enjoyed listening.